For pretty much my entire life, my leisure time's been dominated by narrative, primarily mainstream video games and cinema. These two mediums share a lot in common. Most obviously, they share both visual and auditory channels of communication. In the early years of video games, however, it was difficult to communicate an intrinsic narrative through these channels of communication. Take, for example, Pac-Man. Its single-screen gameplay and abstracted imagery can't do much to convey a narrative. We understand that the character on screen eats the dots, and that this is a good thing because the score goes up, and that he dies if he touches the ghosts, and this is the bad thing because we lose one of our lives. But the technology of this game prevents any further story to be told within the game itself. Therefore, any further story must be told in supplementary material, something extrinsic to the game. Some games sidestepped this issue by providing more literary modes of communicating narrative, as technology was unable to properly use the channels that film had long since developed. Around the time I was born, in the mid-90s, games had started to use 3D rendering technology, which allowed the games to utilize common cinematic techniques, such as cinematography, in order to convey their stories in a more cinematic way. Emerging CD-ROM technology also enabled the use of voice acting, and with this, video games' transformation into more cinematic storytelling was pretty much complete, and these were the types of games that I grew up playing. However, video games have one narrative tool over cinema: interactivity. Video games are capable of making their players participants in the game as opposed to mere observers. This control the player has over the narrative or their character is completely illusory. Narrative game content is not limitless and can't be generated on the fly. Therefore, in order to exist, video games need to limit player choice, and any action the player can take must be accounted for and programmed in advance. Even though this interactivity is illusory, it makes video games far more effective as an escapist medium. The interactivity provides a bridge for me to walk across and become the character that I am seeing on screen. While viewing escapist cinema, I am escaping as myself to view others. While gaming, I am escaping from myself to see myself. Interactivity as a bridge to self-discovery is perhaps more evident in non-digital interactive entertainment. In tabletop games, I have inhabited a wide variety of characters, and these characters I have escaped to from myself do not represent a destruction of my identity. Such an act would be futile. Rather, they represent an act of creativity and self-discovery. The writings in this journal are real, though they didn't happen to me. I am the author, but not the writer. This journal contains in-character journal entries by characters that I have created and role-played in all sorts of tabletop games. These characters are not, by definition, myself. I did not create them as myself, I created them as others, but they serve as otherized reflections of myself. We are definitely not the same person, we don't have the same experiences, the same lives, but I can recognize myself in them, and I can learn of myself by looking at myself through someone else. This is the power of interactivity, to allow ourselves to see ourselves as if we are not ourselves.